you're right.
You know,
It got the
especially-
date, but it doesn't got the time.
Right.
You're right, probably should. Even though it's usually a standing 7 o'clock unless we make it otherwise, but it probably should be there.
We had those two corrections, because there's also a correction down here for the November.
Yes, we're meeting again right after this meeting, folks. All right, so approval of the minutes. Any questions? We'll take a motion. Okay, any other questions?
Well, I don't know if it's, I'll bring it up anyway.
Okay.
Okay, on the, second page, I noticed that, you know, it's got Mr. William Evans, that's his name, and the rest of our names either have Mr. or Mrs. on our name, not to mention our first name. So if the state auditor or somebody, or whoever looks at these papers, you know, Mrs. Jones could be like anybody, you know, they have to go back and look at the record to see if I'm on the board, and they gotta find my name. So wouldn't it be easier just to put, questions by Lois Jones, because that's my name that's on the board, or, Mr. Rex Maynard instead of Mr. Maynard, because that could be anybody, so if we'd like to make sure everybody's name appears as it appears, on the things here.
You want to
don't have-
personalize it.
Well, yeah, because like I said, you don't have to say Mrs. Lois Jones, but just say, you know, Lois Jones, that's fine. I mean, that's what's on our cards, whatever your name is on the card. You know what I mean? It's up to you guys, but I just thought I'd bring that up.
I know I was in the office, what, was that late last week, talked about something I'd like to see on the minutes. Is where it says call to order, that it actually lists everybody's name. That is here, not everybody's here except, because if you have to go back 2 years from now, you
Right.
gotta figure out who was actually on the board and things like that. So
Right.
it'd be better to list everybody, whether they were present, absent, or via WebEx.
Right.
And then that way, going through the meetings, then, okay,
Yeah.
oh, Ms. Jones is,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
she's
right,
on.
right, and that way you know exactly what you're talking about.
So hopefully, we'll work towards that.
Okay.
Any other questions? You know, maintain a motion, to accept the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes.
Okay, Lois makes the motion, we got a second?
Second.
All right. Frank will second it, call the roll.
Boswell,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Otto,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yeah.
Monroe,
Abstain.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Todd,
Abstain.
All right. So we do not have any public hearings tonight, but we are here to move on to, we are gonna do some housekeeping here. So let's first go see if there's anything in the attorney's arena that we need to address, or there's anything cooking over there.
I'm yielding all my time to,
All right. We need to go into yours, or will you explain stuff going through as we go to different topics, or you need a few moments to talk?
Yeah, if I could, just a couple of things. Now, wanted to talk about the budget. We did go for the council, and we did get transfers over for gas and motor. That went great. I just want to let you guys know, I also thank the council as far as what they've given us for this year, between $70,000 of additional unsafe structure money. We've got a new truck, a $2,400 tablet, a new code enforcement, part-time secretary, and a full-time building inspector. So, you know, they have went out of their way to help us take a giant step for White. So I publicly thank them at the meeting for what they've done for us. So I wanted you guys guys to know that. Couple of minor things, inspections, did 271 inspections for October, which is 112 more versus last year in October. Permits overall for the year, we're at 730 permits, which is, versus last year was 613. So if permits, it looks like we're gonna come in our second best ever. The only year that's beat us right now is the ice storm that came through in 2017. So we're having a really good year that way.
All right.
Yeah, Tamarack, real quick, we were out through Tamarack still, looks like they're doing a great job. Bringing trailers in, they're calling for inspections, they're letting us know what's going on. So that's turned out to be a really pleasant surprise out there compared to what we had out there to begin with. Trying to think, we had 5 things, trying to think of what we didn't talk about.
Mhm. The other trailer park situation is a mess.
Liberty Trailer Park, we were back out there with the state and with our local health department, to meet the owner. The owner no show. We're back to the trustee. What was your turn? The trustee told us they're having some septic issues again. The park said that they had all that taken care of. When we got records for it, basically they had the tanks pumped and that's all they did. Back in July. So Nicole got a hold of Chuck Poling, who actually pumped the tanks, and asked Chuck what he had found, and Chuck had talked about crushed lines, talked about drainage that was too small. The system was inadequate for what was out there, let alone adding additional trailers. So all of that is in the health department and state health departments preview. I mean, that's what they're doing. For us, we need an approved form of sanitation. From that, we sent a letter just talking that we were going to go ahead and move forward. He's now contacted us and wants to meet with us tomorrow. So we're still kind of in the middle of that. Something that's come up here, actually between Friday and today, Kathmandu over in Jonesboro. When I kind of jump it out there real quick, we had design releases and building permits for Kathmandu over on Main Street in Jonesboro. The design releases expired, our permits expired. We met with the owner of that property with the state fire marshal. He basically said he was done with that property, it was storage only, and some other stuff about the mayor in Jonesboro, I won't repeat, but we have found out that he is actually renting that out to a motorcycle club at this point. And we have sent letters to him with no response. We sent 2 letters, correct, no response. So we actually tagged the doors in ordinance violation, which did get a response from the president of the motorcycle club. In talking to him on Friday, we explained that the public is not allowed in that building. It is for storage only. This was all explained by not only us, but the state fire marshal. They acted like they were, hey, where do we go? Where do we start? What do we need to do? We understand. And then we found out Saturday and through this morning, they held a Halloween party over the weekend. A day after talking to them, a Halloween party that was 6 to 9 under 21 years old and 9 to 11 over 21 years old. We had no clue, health department had no clue as far as food and services, state has no clue, and even if beer was sold, excise has no. So I'm bringing that to you guys tonight. What size hammer do you want me to go?
Well, I seen it, and they had a table out there, and they looked like they did, but I seen some people going in and out the door, but I didn't know if they was staying in there or going back out with more candy. But there's a Marion motorcycle group that's in that building.
Here is the Facebook invitations, for the Halloween party Saturday night.
And they've been in and out there, because I got called Ryan one time, I called, I said, what was the rules there on that, you know? Cause I know how Bob Nut can be sometimes. He could be, you want something now. I said, I wanna know what's our rules. And he said, no one's put in there, but I seen motorcycles parked in front of it, doors open, it looked like they've been shooting pool and stuff in there.
Well, what we're hearing is they're actually doing construction and making a clubhouse in one section of that building.
So then they probably don't have a permit for that.
No, they can't even
No, it
start
shouldn't
until
be
they've
in
got a
the building.
design release.
So what can we
Through
do
the
as far
state.
as?
So
shooting the
what are
building so they
what
can't
are our
get in?
options, Kyle? I mean, we put
Yeah.
a note on the door and that's not helping.
That note's not gonna work, it's gonna be something else.
Dr. Hammer, apparently you need to do whatever's
Nail it
necessary.
up, or put some
You
board
need
up.
to put a stop work order on it, and you probably need to initiate fines, et cetera, and, you know,
And board it up.
what is the process that we have? What's available to us in terms of?
Well, I mean, we can get the stop work order up, we can get health department with us, because according to the Facebook, they were having chili and the whole 9 yards, so any kind of food service wasn't okay through the health department. I got a hold of Jeff Gabbert, which is our state fire marshal at this point. He basically said, tell me what you need. And then he said if it was a bring your own beer sort of thing, that's one thing. If they brought beer and sold beer, then you're into excise, state excise.
What can we do to shut the operation down, get their attention, say, hey, it's over until?
Oh, the signs are still up. They put signs over our signs for the party and then took them back down afterwards.
Well, don't the local police department have any authority?
They were trying to get a hold of us, and they know, Dreyhoff knows that no one can be in that building, public can't be in that
I
building.
mean, they have a police department that surely patrols that.
But their problem is, Bob, over there, when I talk to them, well, you know this, you know, and it's like they don't wanna get involved, cause I was saying,
They're in
because they
business.
said, you're on every plane, you go do something. I said, I don't have the power. I can go down there and take all the pictures outside I want, and look at it and say, yeah, they're doing it, and port it back to Ryan. But like, I really wanted to tell the police, you're the one with authority that can arrest somebody, do something, knowing that what the area plan has said and want. You're the one that should be forcing this. You see it going on in your own city, you should walk over and say, wait a minute, there's signs here. We see this every day, like Ryan said. They're red signs. I saw them tonight when I drove by there. They're nice signs.
If the local police department's not going to cooperate, don't want to take responsibility, don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, whatever that happens to be, we've got a sheriff.
Right.
And if we don't have sheriff, if sheriff's not able to contain them, we've got state police.
Well, I think in this
Let's
case,
go get it done.
our signs were more to get their attention, which it did, and they called us. But of course, they never said, oh, by the way, tomorrow we're throwing a Halloween party.
So why can't we board
We're
it up?
also-
Why can't we board that building up?
Right, so we didn't respond to it till Monday morning when we got back in and got the messages.
It's zone where he only can store business stuff and take it out. He can't have no parties, no nothing.
Right.
I asked him why you couldn't board up the building.
He had a commercial design release to restore the building back into a bar and a restaurant. He pretty much has got the floor finished, and that's about it. There is an existing bar in there, some kitchen equipment, some areas. He let that design release elapse. So he would have to reapply to do it, and with that, our permits also expire. So we sat down with him in the bar with the state fire marshal and said, okay, what are we doing? He said, I'm not touching this building until that mayor's gone. This is storage.
Is he a new owner?
No, it's pocket.
It's still pocket. He got up on the signboard now. He says, your mayor is running me out of town.
Yeah, it's,
Well, but if he's not following the rules,
But he's not following the rules, what he's doing, he's not following our rules and rules is not ours. He thinks the police department had him, cause some of our reserves don't know him. They pulled a car over, they found the license plate was supposed to be for another car. He's driving on suspended license. The Legion's been mad at him because he thought he could hang on to Legion because when he did the lease with them, $1 a year for the rest of their life. Well, you're closing at 3, me and my buddies wants to stay, we'll lock up when we go to the lease guy. He said, no.
Mhm.
We leave, you leave, and you don't like that. So he's mad at everybody all. Then when we had the river rally up this year, he thought he owned the sidewalk. The police went on and explained to him that's a public side. Well, the vendors are getting too close and I can't do this. It's a public sidewalk. And that started the fight. So all these little things is causing this fight over there.
Honeymoon's over, huh?
so we just need to go to our next step on that building.
okay.
If that is stop work order, if there's no, permit, I guess that would be one step. Any other remedies, Kyle, to the courts or anything, or is that just stop orders?
We would have to go to court in order to completely get everything stopped. We can put the signs up, that's not gonna physically stop him or the group from doing anything, we'd actually have to take it up to court. Am I correct on that? I mean, the signs and everything, they're there to deter them, but in all honesty, with this case and with the individual behind it, we're gonna have to go to court.
And I've got a conflict.
Yeah,
Ken,
Oh,
so-
yeah.
so it would be not with Kyle, it'd be with Morris.
That's who you got a conflict because you're a Jonesboro's attorney, or you a,
Personal.
Pocket, yeah.
okay,
I've represented them in the past.
okay. All right. Then I
Is
guess
there
what,
somebody that we should go to for?
now you said within your
They've been
office,
talking to somebody.
okay, so we're, okay,
Yeah, we're using Morris Kelsey for Puckett and a few other ones that Bruce couldn't do, that instead of just transferring over to Kyle, we just kept with Morris. So we are working with Morris on some of the cases, and of course, he is there to pick up all the payments from the demolitions. So we've got him for a few things. But we'll have to use,
I will, I mean, we'll pull the state in,
Okay.
and we'll get with Keenan in the morning and get health department, they're waiting on us.
maybe have a powwow and see what, yeah,
Well,
Yep.
I mean, I can't.
Kyle's in between.
Yeah,
Kyle's-
Let's leave him out of this particular thing.
all right,
He can't.
So Nicole
respond.
can do her normal thing, we'll pull Dean into it, and I'll get again with the state. fire
Tell them
marshal
what happens over the
And
weekend.
have him, and maybe at some point we can get
We
with,
need to tell Bobby.
meet over there again with Bucket.
What kind
And we
of
may end up
fine,
getting another phone call.
what kind of fines are available to us to levy right away? Generally, when it's starting to cost money, it gets people's attention.
Well,
What's available to us?
I mean, that's one of the problems that we have, is we've never done it in the past. So as far as if we go back to our fees,
If they don't have a building permit, then you charge twice of whatever, but
yeah,
you still have to get a building permit, and it's gonna,
but there is
but it
a,
goes through design release, which would probably state thing.
so like we've talked about in the past, if we run into this, I don't have any kind of ticket system, I don't have any, if who do they pay, how much? It's kind of one of those things on the list to address.
So we have not levied fines in the past?
not since I've been here.
No.
The only time a fine is in place is when we go to court and we give them the first fine that should have actually been charged back in the warning letter. But we normally go with the first 500 when we start cases,
We
and then we
would,
go up from there.
for building permits, they start without a building permit, we don't. Putting a roof on, we find you without a permit, putting a roof on, it goes from $25 to $50. We adopted this fee schedule
Not too long
in
ago.
2018.
Maybe that's something we need to look at on
was my understanding in the past, was we were trying to fund our unsafe structures fund. And as we looked into that, fines that we levied went into the county general fund. And the fines that were levied by the court came into our unsafe structures fund. So apparently in the past, we have levied fines of our own. And that money that was collected then supposedly went back into the general fund for the county. That was one of those things that I can remember asking about, hey, total funds, that fines that we were collecting, court and locally level.
I've been one of your building inspectors, since 2014. Generally through the winter, I was in doing all the stuff we hadn't seen in a year plus, where over half of it could have generated a fine. Never did once.
So let's say that we quit doing that, but it doesn't mean that the authority was taken away, right? Don't we have the authority?
Sure.
So why aren't we doing it?
How much?
What's your schedule call for?
It doesn't have it.
Doesn't have how we're supposed to find them.
So maybe what you want to recommend is an amount, and let's get going with it. I don't know.
It's on the list. It's just here we got one that's up.
Kyle, you can't really speak with this thing.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Well, get more feedback from the other departments, get a game plan and.
When you guys hired me, I had a whole list of to-dos, and it's still on here. As a fine system and fee schedule, work on fines, ticket system, where does the fines go, and safe structure, question mark. I'm trying. I know it needs done.
All right, any other tidbits before we get into the other items here?
Yeah.
Okay, well, just a quick update. We are starting back in the demolition season. Friday, we are starting the process on the demolition on the property of 840 East Bocock. We're starting with the removal of all vehicles, with the beginning of the tear down starting on Monday. So next Monday, we are officially starting the demolition. From that, we're gonna work on trying to get the Upland building down, the Van Buren building down, and then hopefully getting back into Jonesboro to finish the last 3 properties that we have court orders. Now, of course, we do have others that are coming in with court orders, but those are the last ones on the former list, minus the one that we're taking to court in December. December 3rd, we'll be going back to court for the Hoover Mills case, which is over here on 500, to get an updated court demolition case, or demolition. Other than that, the rest are newer court dates, or newer demolitions / our contracts. So,
Which is something we wanna talk about.
Yep, that's one of the things we're talking about tonight.
We've got our next 5 set, 6 possibly, but going into January, we're gonna need to start getting into demo contracts. Or we're gonna have open time, but nothing coming down.
How do we set priorities for demolitions? For example, like, I have a concern about Van Buren. We've got a building over there that's apparently very, very unsafe. And it's on our list, but it's not at the top of the list, for example. And we apparently have a building out on Bocock, which we've been working on for years, I understand that. But that does not appear to be the safety kind of issue that the Van Buren building might be, for example. I'm just wondering, how do we prioritize?
well, we were taking Van Buren or Upland or any building before Van Buren. We all agree that that building is coming down and we want to get it down as quickly as possible. We do have the emergency action in place, but unfortunately, where the portion of the building is falling down and is not hindering any other properties, it's not going to come crashing down on a car that's passing by because it is in an alley. So that emergency situation does not address that. This is another gray area. There's 4 owners to that building. The two on the one with the portion falling down and the one that owns the wood building are up for getting the contract. The one on the end doesn't want anything to do with the property, but is willing to go into a contract just to get it out of his hair. It's the one in the middle we're having issues getting contact with. They contacted us back in 2019, wanting to remodel it into an online motorcycle shop. We have sent them, of course, COVID hit, everything stopped, everything froze, nobody was able to do anything. Now that we're back up and running, no contact. I've sent them 3 letters trying to get them to actually come in on their own or call us, just trying to get this building down when it first started coming down before it turned into a big gate. Now we're in the court system, and unfortunately, we were at a standstill because we found out that they didn't get served properly. Their 30 days was up on the 27th, and now we are trying to figure out what our next step is in order to make sure we get it down in the most legal way possible. So it's unfortunate that that building has to stay standing, but at the same time, we are trying to do everything we possibly can to get it down as quickly as possible, but we're running into the hiccups. Yep.
So we're kind of hoping, and this is, that if we can't get a hold of them, that we can publicate, 3 times, and then take it down.
We can publish, yeah. I mean, there's a process to publish, so you gotta get them right. You got an affidavit that you try to contact them and submit an affidavit to court to do it by publication. So we're in that process now.
We're trying. I
So
mean,
we've got court order there, we've got approval there. We're hoping that's number 3, if we can get it publicated to get that down, and then the other 2, we've got court orders on left in Jonesboro. Those are gonna be our 3rd, or 4th and 5th. Hubbard Mills, if we can get it in, will be number 6. If not, we'll start going through demo contracts. She's also got in the pipeline several others that are in different stages. We kind of talked about this back in July, June-ish, that we really needed to get her freed up because the amount of time, again, 4 to 6 months, to have these start popping up now. So we're lucky enough, we've got enough to cover through the end of the year, but we may have to start covering the rest of the time with demo contracts until we can get back into court orders.
I guess it comes back again to people can delay us, even though we told them, hey, you contact us, but if they don't, it's kind of like they thumb their nose and there's no consequence to that until we get a court order to tear it down. There needs to be some kind of wake-up steps in between. Please contact, if they don't, you know. Our philosophy that we've adopted several years ago is that we're going to be, our first contact's going to be cordial. We're here to serve the public, et cetera, but in your back pocket, you got the big stick.
Right.
Apparently, we've got a huge stick through the courts, but we don't have anything in between. And I would think fines or whatever it happens to be, maybe need to be established for, so that they can't delay for ever and ever. The property you're talking about out here on Bocock Road, they thumbed the nose for, what, 4 or 5 years?
mhm.
And
They had an
nothing has
excuse for
happened
that too.
until, but when they finally got notice that we are gonna do this, now all of a sudden, you know, maybe they're looking at going to an attorney. Yeah, that should have happened
Right.
4 years ago. We should have.
Now the other side of that is, there's no more of this set it and forget it. I mean, as far as if they're wanting to come in and get permits and that sort of stuff, we are setting 3 months. 3 months we'll be back. We're not gonna give you a 2-year permit, we'll see you in 2 years. And then you give us the sad story, so we extend it 2 years. I mean, that's most of what we're taking down. We're gonna give you 3 months, make progress. We're not asking you to be done, but make progress. You make progress, we'll give you another 3. And that so far has worked out well, to keep us in touch with these, instead of going back going, oh, 2019, they never did call. So, I mean, we're working on it, I agree, I've gotta jump on files. We gotta get solar, rules and procedures through, digital through.
All right,
So,
so we're working the courts. we'll have volunteer people want the stuff to come down, but we need to approve a contract. And keep the pipeline full, and now that we have money, we can actually act on it.
Right.
Rather than before, yeah, we get all this, oh yeah, we can do that, but then you don't have the means to take down, we didn't have money before, or very little.
We're coming through to the end of the year currently with 64,000. Council will reappropriate 50 for next year, so I mean,
So we, and with the
money's-
county
the money's there.
doing it, we get good bang for our buck, so. Okay. So we need to look at this contract, I'm assuming.
Right.
This is a draft. I imagine Kyle, if you look through the draft, is this for our, the look over, and then hopefully in December we approve it?
Well,
Or
this
is it
should
ready to
be
go?
ready to go.
This should be ready to go.
Yes, we brought it last month, and then Morris looked over it as far as payments
Okay,
and
so
stuff
this is
goes.
going through his,
Yeah.
because he's gonna be the one collecting the money.
And I'm correct, this is just an okay here, right? Since this is actually gonna be within our department.
Yeah, we're okay then. I told, as far as I'm concerned, we're ready to go. Give me a deal, I'll put in the numbers and get them signed.
I mean, we don't have to recommend here and take it up to the commissioners.
No. They're,
Well,
You explain what that is. This is new to me. Tell me, what were we looking at?
This is, we had presented it last month as far as a demo contract for we have people out there that are willing to sign a demo contract with us in lieu of going to court. So we would pretty much set this up, have them sign a contract, we would still do all of our title searches and everything that we do now. But we would get approval, signature, notification, notary, and basically take it down. We would decide on down payments and a payment plan if possible. Again, this instead of being 4 to 6 months to demolition, that's our time.
They're willing to cooperate rather than go through this court system.
Right.
And this is a means to make that happen.
Right.
An agreement that protects us.
Do we have the financial end of that worked out, like what the down payment's gonna be and how much the payments are gonna be? I mean, is that a part of this?
We've spoke to Morris and those type, when we set that up, we will take it on a case-by-case basis. And Morris, we've talked to Morris, and Morris is gonna do like his collections. He's gonna take it and he's gonna bill and do that whole end of it. So, once we have it signed, we can give it to Morris and Morris will bill.
But the cost of demolition will be based on the cost involved in taking it down.
Right.
So it's not like a flat rate for any type of property.
Yeah, because we've got it set up as far as the full cost, but we don't know the full cost until we get it to the ground and clear. We know that most people that we're dealing with can't hand us $5,000, or they would have done it themselves. So, you know, our hope and kind of some of the stuff that we looked at and talked about is even if we look at $600 for the first 2 dumpsters, and then set up some type of $50, $100 a month sort of payment plan. With the agreement though, then it goes to Morris to monitor and bill. So if they don't pay, then Morris, I mean, if we take these to collections, they go to Morris anyway. So Morris would already have them in his office. And we don't expect to have 100 of these, but we may have 20 of them.
So ultimately, if they don't pay, somebody, hey, I'm just not gonna do it no matter what, more station. Is ultimately then this gonna be tagged on their taxes?
Yeah, it just goes to whether we do it now. It would go to a judgment, to collection, right back to Morris.
in order to get it on their tax bill or that you have to file suit. So all you're doing here is making an agreement with them, I will pay $5,000. If they don't pay, then you would have to initiate litigation on the contract you have. So it's not a standard lien.
Right.
And it's not gonna be anything, cause I was asking them today, how much are you getting back? Not much. You know.
We're trying to break
But
even.
also, I know it's because we've had the pandemic, and that doesn't address this, because what happens is, say a person, they're paying, their little payment, whatever they're paying, and all of a sudden they become ill. And so, they really wanna pay and they can't pay, and, the president turned over the collection agent, whatever. There's no amendment in here that can say if you should become, ill or can't pay, that we can do, whatever you can pay. Because, people can't help when they get sick. And, it's just one of those things that happens with the pandemic, people are out of work and everything, so we need to make some kind of adjustment for those people.
And that's, you can make anything you want, you don't have to file suit. You
Right,
can
that's
make
what I'm
any
saying.
type of private
Yeah, but if
adjustment.
they had
you
that,
want.
in writing where they can see it, say, if I don't, can't make it, I'm terminally ill or something happens to you, we're still gonna get our money.
Basically, what we're doing is we're making a stab at trying to
Right.
take care of blight out here the best we can.
Right.
And make it as easy on our people as
Right.
possible.
Right.
This is a good thing. I recommend this, correct?
Yes.
It does say under payment, I guess it's whatever, so owner agrees that any balance owed at the time of demolition will be a lien on the real property. So I guess it could potentially, so they're gonna go in under the understanding of what it is. If we get a good down payment that covers the cost of the dumpsters, which is what's really out of pocket.
Right.
I mean, the county wages are involved in the demolition, but at least maybe we can break even on the dumpster end of it, and then start getting some payments and,
Well, we also have to go through the testing for asbestos and making sure that we do a title search, because just because they sign that
Right.
contract, it could come back as something completely
Right.
different.
Yes,
So, I mean, they still have to pay all those fees as well.
yes, because we don't wanna be tearing down somebody else's property.
Yep.
Right.
That would be bad,
Yes.
that would be bad, yes.
I have a question, Ryan,
Yes.
over this solar ordinance.
We'll
I
be
went
getting to
Are
that,
we there?
we'll be getting to that in a little bit.
Okay.
We're just doing the demo contract right now. Okay? All right, any other questions? Are we ready to approve it as is? So they can get this in the works, because that sounds like they need some work lined up for January. I'll take a motion. Hey, Jerry makes a motion, we got a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Rex make the second, call the roll.
Boswell,
Yes.
Frankel,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Jones,
Yeah,
Fleming,
Yes.
Maynard,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Knuckles,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
All right,
And we'll keep, as we start this, we'll keep you guys in the loop on,
Yes,
hey,
I'm-
here's how it's going.
all right, so we got a couple other things we got on the docket here. We can go right with the thing on top, at least mine was, Nelson Farm property. As you know, we made an agreement, or we forwarded up an agreement to the commissioners, and they agreed to some zoning requests. And I guess maybe a month back or so, they had an event that, Bob had an issue with some stuff that they were having out there. So I just wanted to bring that up and discuss it. So I guess they had Bad Dad Brewery out there, which my understanding is part of her festival. She had different events going on. Showed that, from my understanding, that she got all the permits needed. Now, within this agreement, it does kind of outlaw alcohol, but that would be for day-to-day operations, I would say. So this one of 3 events she's allowed to have a year, is that's acceptable.
I don't think it ever was acceptable.
No,
I thought we made that clear, but apparently it got went over somebody's head, but, that was our full intent, is no alcohol to be consumed out there,
Even on the special event.
even on the special events, and particularly the special events.
and I think by circling around us and getting another vendor to bring in alcohol, because they have a license.
Right.
Then we need to make sure that no matter who has the license, they don't have the right. We won't allow them to have alcohol on that particular, her property. Now, if she's going somewhere else and they're doing, that's different. You know, but what we approved, we said, no alcohol, we were under that impression.
Well, within her buildings,
Yeah, right,
which she didn't, she had somebody else come to do it.
right, but that's where we went wrong at.
Mhm.
You know, and we need to correct that, because that way, there can be no alcohol served, like you said, on her building. But if she went to, at her event somewhere else, and they had alcohol, and she's part of that, that's fine.
Off her property.
Right, but not alcohol on her property of any kind.
Okay, but I understand our agreement says that for those events, as long as she has the necessary permits, that she's allowed to do it, and she had permits through excise to do it. She got the proper permits,
She has an alcohol permit?
she went through excise, got a permit for it, she went to the health department, and got approval for all the food. She got approval
Well,
for.
that was not our intent, that was something that we mishad, but that needs to be corrected.
Yeah.
So I don't see Ron Mauer here, if the commissioners would entertain us sending a motion up, or how, because they were the ones that entered the agreement. We recommended this to them, so that the commissioners are the ones that would have to change, or do we make a recommendation to change? I don't even know if they would be receptive to that, or what their feelings on it.
Did she get a permit to be excised in her name, or is that under the bar's name?
What she said, I don't have it.
I don't see how she could get it in her name, they're not gonna allow her to sell alcohol.
She probably got it through bad dad.
That's right, that's in their name, that's not her.
See, that's not her.
Well, that's contradictory again.
But still, it is the requirement, and I'm not saying good or bad, I'm just saying, when she's coming to me saying, I've covered this base, I've covered this base, I've covered this
She
base.
knows what we're talking about, Ryan.
When was this event held?
It was,
October 9th or somewhere around.
It was the
there.
9th.
whenever we talked, it was like 2 weeks prior to that.
It was the 9th, when
The 9th,
she
okay,
transferred
the
it to
9th.
Gas City.
October the 9th, when she moved to Gas
She
City.
moved it to
probably
Gas City.
covered
Right there where the
kind
bench
of
center
thing.
was.
Right.
And I was told when I raised this, and I was told 2 or 3 times that I was wrong about October 9th, if you recall. Covered Bridge Festival, when was it held?
That would have been closer to Labor Day, the weekend after Labor Day.
It's in
September.
Yeah.
All right.
And you recall, Chuck, Ryan telling me that that's when the event happened, and it wasn't happening on October the 9th.
Well, she does, I mean, monthly, she does the farmer stuff in Gas City.
No,
I
no,
understand.
No, this
We were
was-
talking about this event after the last meeting.
this was transferred to Gas City.
And I was
I
saying
don't know.
October the 9th.
Yeah, well,
The website says.
that's part of the problem, we don't even know what's
She-
going on.
About 2 weeks or 3 weweeks prior, she, on her website, said she got approval from Bill Rock to move it to where the event center building was gonna be built in Gas City. And they had a little scuffs and over parking, they got that straight out, and the Boy Scout somewhere parked cars for them.
Yeah, the
They made a
school,
little bit of money, and she moved it to Gas City.
So this
So
event,
that's a non-issue?
so this event
That's not
never,
an issue, she said.
this event never happened
It never happened on her property.
on her property, that's right.
She's also got a Christmas on the cattle farm coming up November 27th.
She's still entitled to 3,
right.
Right.
cause she didn't use that one there.
And in that advertisement, there is no mention of any kind of alcohol,
Not that I've noticed.
not that I've seen.
But, I think I told
Yeah,
her she's
you-
her own worst enemy. She puts this stuff out there, and then
So the last email I got was on that event being out there. So I'm thinking that email along with.
No,
the
she
other-
canceled that, not necessarily canceled it, but she moved it. She moved out of that.
Yeah, she just said it was too big.
That's what she said, yeah.
She moved it to
So, so the contract that we have written up, Kyle, did you write a contract for us, for her?
We've got a written commitment they agreed to when the zoning was changed from
Right.
1 acre. Yeah. And so, I mean, there is some ambiguity, which is interesting. I told Ryan because, you know, we put a lot of things in here.
Right,
It says, she may only sell at retail, and they're listed, you know, about
Right.
20 items. None of which is alcohol. She does have, you know, section 2 says they may host 3 festivals there, subject to any necessary permits. Now, I don't know that would probably be a broad reading to include alcohol in that. You know, it's prohibited, alcohol sales, restaurant, tavern, bar.
right, as
so-
far as on the
and
property.
then, you know, and it says it can be enforced by Grant County Area Plan Commission, so, I mean, I think it gives you guys the enforcement rights now. What are the facts, you know, I don't know. I mean,
Does it say alcohol sales?
That would
It
be,
says it's prohibited, it says, if you look at all the list of prohibited.
There's 2 of them there.
yeah,
You know, number 1, it says only sell at retail, then,
right,
you know,
things
all
that
those.
she should be able to do,
And then if you look at the prohibited uses,
mhm,
it says a nightclub, dance club, with alcohol sales service, you know, I mean, it's probably not a nightclub, you know, with one festival. Restaurants are in there, tavern, bar, pub is excluded, so, I mean, you know, was she operating those? No, I mean, you're talking about one festival with one event, but, I mean, it's.
my opinion, I don't have a problem with what she was trying to do. That's my personal opinion. She's allowed, this is the way I view it, she has allowed to do 3 events. Now, if we have enough people that think we should change it, then I would say, or amend it, but then then she'd have to agree to that too, right?
She'd have to agree to it, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
If she doesn't, then I guess,
Differs from yours, as you know. So, just know that
right, that's what,
What if she doesn't agree to it?
well, then I would assume the current agreement will stand, or
Current
there's an
agreement
option to
stands, yeah.
avoid it.
Current agreement stands, I mean, it's not, you know, you could read it either way and the court would decide, you know,
Mhm.
does a festival allow it? I mean, it says only sell at retail and it lists like 20 things, that's pretty specific, none of which is alcohol, you know, I think. You know, does a festival open that up? I don't think a festival would open that up, would be my court interpretation, that you would be on solid ground. I guess the issue is, do you want to, is it something you want to spend your time enforcing? That's your decision, you know? I think you guys don't have to go back to anybody. It can be enforced by the area plan, say, we're enforcing this commitment. We think this was a violation or no,
So we can
not
say this is a
violation.
violation, we believe this is a violation, please cease to not do this anymore. And if she has an objection to it, then she can appeal it or take it to task.
Or she could just do it and you could, you know, challenge her on it and say, we think the current agreement restricts that.
Well, in addition to that, I definitely think we need to take that step. But it brings up other issues too. For example, controlled substances. You know, alcohol's not the only one. And we don't have anything in here that talks about controlled substance. And down the road, we're going to be facing an issue with cannabis, for example. It's already on the edge. What's that gonna do? Do we want that happening, along with alcohol? I mean, it's a broad thing. What do we need to do in terms of language, the amendment, to say that we do not want controlled substances nor alcohol to be a part of this. How do we word that? Do we put it in this, or do we just assume that it's already there and go ahead and enforce it? Tell her no more of that.
Well, the first paragraph says the beef boutique may only sell at retail the following products.
So then
I mean, I think everything not listed would be, can't sell.
You know, I just kind of find it mind-boggling. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't mean to just be throwing this out to be cruel, but did her father get killed driving under the influence? I mean, that's why I think it's just mind-boggling that this lady puts so much emphasis on alcohol at her event.
It would be liable. Bad brewery,
And you could probably pick them all.
they're probably selling it, they may be collecting the money, and she may not be
But you
getting
get a
no money
good
from
lawyer,
that.
but still be liable.
It's the draw of
It's
the
on
people
her
there.
product. It's on her
Well,
product.
yeah, and I'm not defending anyone, I think her intention was all local vendors. We're making the alcohol the demon here, but it was all local vendors.
Right.
So, I mean, I get where you're coming from as far as alcohol, but let's remember, that was the purpose of it. It wasn't, she
No
wanted
matter
to
what
have,
the
she wanted to
purpose
have a
is,
nightclub.
alcohol is alcohol.
I understand that.
I don't think so.
Well, I'm not sure, would we even win if it says the common address, it has her address, and it says she hosted it, but it wasn't even on her property?
Well, it's not on her property, no.
No, this one was, no, that one wasn't.
No.
No, she,
Yeah,
When are we discussing?
Well,
Until tonight,
for the future,
in the future.
future.
Okay.
The
Yeah, she
other thing,
canceled
the
that.
other thing to look at, there's many places out there probably doing similar things that have not gone through all the hoops to do what she's trying to do. To come in here and try to do it, quote, legal, and then we're giving her, in my opinion, giving her a hard time when you got people throughout the county doing similar things that have not gone through all the right processes. So, it's a big, you know, my opinion again. But if the interpretation, if we as a council or commission, I guess, believe that
You know,
bringing out a third-party vendor on alcohol would void,
one of
would
the
be
things that we
prohibited.
need to keep in mind is that when this first came before us for discussion,
Mhm.
before anything was ever approved, anything else, the very first thing that we brought in, the one thing that was of concern was that she had hosted before without permit, et cetera, on Father's Day, an event similar to what we're talking about.
Mhm.
And that she had put in a Father's Day package. I don't know, what was it, Johnny Walker or Jack Daniels or whatever it happened to be. And this body deliberated about that was inappropriate. And we did not really want that kind of thing going on. We're not against what she's doing. You know, in fact, I think she's a go-getter. It's all fine, I've said that before. However, I also think that she works to get what she wants, even though that may not be something that we intended. So the alcohol thing was discussed at the very beginning of this, as being something that we were against. She knew that because we talked about it with her present. Okay? And then when we did our agreement, she found a way and evidently convinced us, you know, Mr. Blat or whoever, that, hey, it doesn't say that I can't do alcohol. In fact, it implies here that if I give you permits, et cetera. This body opinion in the very beginning was no alcohol.
Well, she said she's
And
gonna
now
take
we're
the
gonna make a big-
Jack Daniels out.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
She
she
tried.
did, yeah. Yeah, she did. She was gonna meet that. And then she backdoored it. You know. So in terms of giving her a hard time, whatever, she was giving us a hard time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've made this decision. I don't know why we were hashing it again.
Probably when we did the agreement, maybe we should have included, we should have made it specific at that point in time. And it might have just been an oversight, but we need to fix it.
We need to fix it.
How do we fix it?
Next question. Kyle, how do we fix it?
Well, in this, the only way to modify the agreement is to have all parties agree. Now, I mean, if your modification is specifically, you cannot sell alcohol. I think it's pretty clear you can only sell at retail. I mean, if you wanna make it clear, I mean, you can put anything you want in there to make it clear. You can't sell alcohol, you can't sell controlled substances.
Do we do that, or do we just call her and tell her that with the current agreement, it does not include
Yeah, it doesn't include alcohol
please be free.
for the retail sales.
Which would include bringing in a third party at events on your property. That's our interpretation of our agreement.
That's your guys' decision. I mean, if you
I
want
thought we had that agreement.
I did
like you
too.
said.
Yeah, we've had that.
Because we talked about it with her and
Is that the simplest thing for us to do? And then if she doesn't, do we have to come back and do it in writing?
Well, I think probably send her a letter would be the thing, wouldn't it? I mean, say, we understand, although it did not happen on your property, but in the future, our interpretation of this agreement would be not to, that even third-party alcohol vendors would not be.
For me, if that's the will of the majority of the commission, I would probably just have Ryan call her and say, hey, this is what we think. She's been cooperative, if she doesn't believe that, you know, she'll either say she'll enter an agreement, she won't do it, or if she thumbs your nose at you guys, then you can take whatever action you want to take, you know? If she were to do something later, you could take your interpretation and say, we're gonna challenge it.
Well, Jim kind of mentioned something, you know, it might be for her own protection as well. If somebody got hurt out there, she's got a liability there. Now, whether she's got that covered on her property, who knows, but I doubt that, there would be a real liability there if somebody was intoxicated, pulled out that driveway with a lot of cars and smacked somebody and killed them. That's a dangerous road out there about where she lives.
And we also wondered about the fact of the board too being sued for the fact that she can say, well, that wasn't in the agreement, so I thought it was okay, the board okayed it. So we've got to protect this town too, you know, as far as legal action.
I would think in the letter, if she would make that, well, it doesn't say that specifically, but it is certainly implied that you can only sell at retail and the number of things, anyway, and that is our interpretation. If you don't want to abide by that, fine. We'll take appropriate action. I guess where we are,
Yeah.
time's running
Yeah,
out.
well,
Is it time for us
we've
to
got
find
some
out?
other things we need to get to, so.
Let's find out about this, you know, do you have a majority? I know you.
So
do feel
you're
like
saying
we'll take
yes?
action.
Yes.
Ryan should call, Ryan should call.
You can take
That's
it
yes.
Ryan, you'll probably get a pretty good read or with a response, how she's gonna come back at us
If he
or
calls
not.
for it.
Well, we got 3 people over here. You are. So we got more than a majority here wanting Ryan to, call.
We don't have
Consent.
7, I don't know, Mark, where are you with that?
I don't think, I think I wanna win, so if you come down to this and she forces your hand, I think you're gonna lose, that's my personal opinion. I think if it goes, if she gets an attorney and she fights us on it, I think we'll lose. Because she's already, you know, signed the agreement and she's gonna, that's just my opinion, I think that there'll be enough little things that they'll go, well, she didn't technically host it on her property.
Well, no, we can't, we're
No,
not,
I'm
we're
just
not,
saying-
right, not what happened, because it didn't happen there.
Right.
But I'm just saying,
We're
if
just
you
trying
get
to head
to,
off.
you get to a point.
No, she
that-
wants to do something off her property.
Yeah.
Now, she didn't do this, now, maybe she hasn't done this. We're trying to
The
prevent it
thought
from
was she was doing it.
She was going to do it.
I thought she already hosted
No, no,
this.
no,
Yes,
no,
she
she did not.
She did
Yeah,
it
but we're
as
not-
city.
we're not-
Yeah, that's what
You guys
We're not-
can settle it.
Okay.
All right. Give her a call.
I got her there.
All right, now we'll move
I'll
on.
let you know.
Okay, so we got a task in front of us. I'll let Ryan talk a little bit, but, we'll do the solar stuff right now. Where we're at today, so the timeline went back in July-ish timeframe. The commissioners came to you and we're getting inquiries about solar farms within the county. So be proactive, commissioners, ask Ryan to start, well, you, because it's where it was gonna end up, to start looking into it. Ryan put a lot of work into it. I don't know if anybody actually watched what happened a few weeks back at the fairgrounds, amount of effort and drafting and getting input from all areas related to this, not just, the solar side, our side, commissioner's side, the drainage board, EMS, I mean, the highway department. I mean, there's all aspects that have been looked into and have a little bit of part into this. So there are still some things that are left that need to be finalized. So there's a couple ways that we could do this. We're not gonna talk much about it today as far as the particulars, because, it would take forever, would take a long time. There may be a couple things we can determine in this meeting that really wouldn't affect the guts of the ordinance. But I would recommend that we have a working meeting, similar to what the county commissioners did a few weeks back, and have a meeting where we invite all the parties again. We would go through the ordinance so that we understand what we're gonna approve, and hey, why is it like this? And then we would have people there that would be able to answer, well, this is why, this is how this industry works. This is kind of like what we've seen in other places and how it works, and then we can maybe make good judgments on how we should interpret it into our ordinance. Did I get that?
I agree.
Did I get- did
I
get-
agree with that, but one thing I have a question about, I sat in that meeting too, and the way I was reading it, there's two options to this. And I'm hearing the commissioner wants it come through us, but in my opinion, what I'm reading, it should go through the BZA. And that's my biggest concern over it.
Well,
I have no
now-
concern with Ryan doing an ordinance. But where I'm hearing they want this to go, it should not be for us. How many times this year have we sat here and we said, why are we seeing this? This should be BZA. And it's caused way the commissioners set it up, but I think we need to tell the commissioners that this needs to go through the BZA. We don't want this trouble again when we're sitting here saying, this should be through the BZA, and because you did it and you want it this way, you know, the BZA, I mean, the
You look at the back of that, it's both ways.
and I feel like the
Here's
commissioners
way.
need to know, this should go through the BZA. It should not be through us. Because they had two options. When I was reading what Ryan put out there, it said it should go through, but they want to come through us, and what I'm getting out of it, the reason they want, because all we give is a good recommendation, no and that's the ones that want to be in control and hold the control. That's why they're pushing it that way. The true way it is, if you read it right, it needs to go through the BZA and nowhere else. And the commissioner needs to learn that. And we need to start a set example right here in this meeting tonight.
Exactly.
I have a question about that, and not about that specifically, but an ordinance like this is to be done by the commissioners, correct? Why are we approving it? Why is it even before, the adoption of the ordinance, before we ever talk about where the specific case is going to land or not? But I guess I have a concern for Ryan, for example. Ryan's got his hands full. I mean, we have a lot of work, actual area plan work that needs to be done, more than enough to keep him busy for a long period of time. I'm not certain why he was asked to do a job for the commissioners. And then, as he's done that, and perhaps done a great job of it, I have no idea. But who was it that asked him to do that? Did they ask us first if our person could do their work for them in developing this ordinance? Or did they go straight to Ryan, and Ryan, accepted and was willing to do it? And now we're coming back and we're saying, as we look at this, we're going to have another meeting, us, and then before we approve, is it ours to approve?
Well, we would recommend an ordinance to the county county commissioners, right? Yes.
All we have is recommendation power on anything, right?
Well, we would recommend an ordinance up to them, right?
Why is
Either
it
way,
us
it
to
was
do
gonna
that?
land on my desk.
Pardon?
Either way, it was gonna land on my desk. It's gonna be up to us to enforce it.
It very well may, I understand that in the end, we may end up having to, deal with it. It may be either here or the BZA, which you're going to be in charge either way. But what I'm saying is, they wanted an ordinance adopted, and they assigned us to do that and make a recommendation.
I believe in the original meetings, when gathering up people to get involved in this, area plan was invited to the meeting. You were probably there, Kyle.
I was there, county council.
Or county council, there's a lot of people involved.
Was the BZA there?
I would not know. Well, area plan is part of the.
Okay.
I mean, by law, you have to be involved because you're amending the zoning ordinance, so, I mean, it's coming to you whether you like it or not, because that's your duty. So, who drafts the ordinance, who does what, I mean, you're right, the commissioners are gonna have final say. You know that. You know that when you took this job, that's what the law says. And so you guys have a part in the process. There's no doubt you have a part in the process, and you have to be by law. So that's what it is.
But
You
it's
give
not approval, right?
What's
It's a
that?
recommendation. We're not.
Well, we would recommend that they approve it or recommend whatever. And they're gonna make their final decision.
That it goes to them without.
Yeah, it'd be our three options, or whatever we have.
Yeah,
Well,
so-
you're
but
gonna
we're
hold-
not approving I just wanted to get it clear that this is not our ordinance, this is gonna be the commissioner's ordinance.
Well,
And that our place in the ordinance adoption is simply, Ryan has volunteered to do the work. If they could have had Justin do the work, for example.
Yeah, well-
Which would have been nice, but nonetheless, he's done the work. And now our involvement in that is to take a look at it. And if there's gonna be a discussion between BZA and, area plan as to who's doing that, shouldn't maybe the BZA itself also be included in this? Should we at our next meeting include the BZA as part of this total group? And should they not have input into the decision as to what kind of recommendation we make back to that we make back to the commission?
We tried that
Just
one
a
other
question.
time on something, I can't remember what it was, but we did.
Well, it's your guys' vote. I mean, obviously, there's a public hearing.
Yes,
So
this is not
anyone-
even, we're just still discussing, even at this future meeting.
Anyone, including any member of the BZA, which are, a couple members of the BZA on the commission here, but you can, the BZA is like any member of the public can participate in any public hearing and give their thoughts and opinions.
I'm just wondering if we're gonna have this
To invite them too, so they can review.
additional meeting that you're talking about.
I have no, because you know what, just like the meetings leading up to forming this, there's many parties involved. Yes, I don't have a definitive answer which one it should go to, but I'll tell you, if we send it up, it says it goes to BZA, they're gonna turn it down. Because they'll want it to come to them. Just think of the process. If you've read through there, there's like 3 different categories of zoning for these things. One would be like at your home, you put that's gonna at least the way it's currently written, is handled in the office. So let's say they wanna put a panel up, and it's gonna be in the easement. Well, then they have to go to BZA to get it a variance. Then there's the next one up would be like what the 2 school corporations have done, big but not industrial size. So that come through, and would have to go through the process there. What we're talking about is multi-million-dollar investments, and I think the county commissioners want to make that final decision.
But I think they're wrong on that, because it's like a few times they wrote rules on us. In this last year, we sit here, and I know Bob said it on Robert, said, why is this to us? And the more you read about it, is because Commissioner knows that once the BZA, because I'm on the BZA, our vote is final. There's nobody can change it unless you wanna take it to court. This way, like you said, they want control of that money, and they want control of certain things that they should not have control of. Because if you read the 2 lines where Ryan put in there, and I was reading, it said first it should go to the BZA, but they wanted to flip it with their
Well, that's
own
where the
top.
current writing.
And that's where they want it, because they want control. But really, we need to tell them, when we send a recommendation, if we say, we set this on, the only way we're gonna set it, you give it to the BZA. Because that's where it truly belongs. I sit on the BZA long enough, and I've been on this board, and stuff that's been overlooked at BZA, because when we change ordinance around here, and we do it here, it affects the BZA too. It falls back on them, and we leave them out. You leave us out, we have no say-so. We should have say-so in changes in Ryan's office that affect the BZA. We should have a say-so in it. And that's why I've been complaining last year. Nobody, they're just saying like, you're trash, you have no say. We should, when ordinance and stuff change, it affects the BZA. They should be involved, just like Bob Biden. I think they should be involved in this and have their say-so. And because it could eventually come back to them, and they had no say-so.
But there's another issue too, when you say it's monetary, that what the cities want is to, to have this, program to go into effect. Yes, it's gonna bring money here, whatever. There's also the people here. We represent the people of Marion and their property. And it's us to make sure that they're getting the right thing done on their property. And not come back and say, well, I thought I knew this one thing, but it's not that, because a lot of them don't have the money to go to an attorney to look at the paperwork when they come to say, look at your property. They forgot to tell you that, or you're gonna come 50 feet in, but if your barn burns down, you can't rebuild it back in that spot. That's what they didn't tell you. See, now, you don't know what to do, because these people, they don't own your land, but they're leasing that land. So, and you want the specific, because people are gonna come here to these meetings, they're gonna, the questions I'm telling you now, is what they're gonna be asking.
Yeah, and because sometimes, like this, like you said, Jeff, some of it's gotta go back to the BZA and settle property.
Right.
If it's all gonna go back that way, they should be involved in saying they agree with this ordinance, because it's gonna affect the BZA.
That's
And I
all, that's all
I
on our
think Ryan
tax
did a
day.
great job on it, and his presentation that day was great. But I know what the commissioners and certain ones, and I know who spearheaded it. And just because it's all about money and we don't have the expertise, we got just as much expertise as them. I could probably tell them more about solar panels and stuff, because I sit in a whole class with I&M with their Lincoln Boulevard stuff and how to do stuff and what to do and not to do with solar panels and what their cost. And like they said, we'll always have somebody on 24/7. I&M says the same thing. Nearest person, South Bend, St. Joe, Michigan. So you're gonna wait 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
When you start reading up on some of this stuff. So if it's gonna come back and affect the BZA, I think they should be involved too. I don't think we should leave them out.
Alright.
Because I know what the commissioners want, but.
We've got 1, 2, there are 3 area plans in Grant County, is that correct? Marion, Gas City,
Right,
Grant County.
and
Okay.
Squeaky.
You represent 55%.
If we've got 3 area plans, and I know that there's a solar field outside of Gas City out east. Have they done any work on an ordinance of any kind at all?
I haven't
Should
talked to
they
Gas
be
City, but
included so that our whole county was kind of on the, because. a lot of
I
things-
talked to Sam and Lisa, and even Fosnick showed up for the summit, and we had, I can't remember her name, but she helped with the IPL with the solar farm for Gas City, because Gas City is going to do a second solar farm, but she was also present at that. So,
I'm just wondering about,
Who is this one?
again, the inclusiveness of this.
Yes.
So, you know, Gas City doesn't end up with something different from what the county does, Marion doesn't end up.
Well, that may
And
be
I've had
all
that
well and good,
conversation
but
with Mary.
they're not part of us. I mean, we gotta defend what we're for.
I
Yeah,
understand, that.
incorporated.
It's not a problem, I'm just saying, hey, how can we, if we're gonna do something that is major, which, you know, wind farms, solar farms, CAFOs, you know, all that kind of stuff affects everybody. And in this particular time, or in this particular case, there are things inside the cities of Gas City and Marion that could have solar farms. Now, you know, things like CAFOs, and that, we don't have to, I wouldn't think that we'd have any concern with that.
Right.
But I would think, you know, with something like solar, maybe we ought to at least touch base, hey, what are you guys thinking about this and so on.
I have with Mary, not with Gas.
You'd have with Mary?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually have, they have copies of our third.
Yeah, could we do that with Gas City too? Get them,
I don't know, who do I send it to? I asked Mayor
start
Rock.
with Bill.
Well, I've emailed Mayor Rock, I sat here in a commissioners meeting and talked to him, trying to figure out who the planner is. He thinks Brad is still the building inspector and probably,
Classmate, go ahead, Klein.
so I figured I'll
That's
send
who
to
I'd start
Brad.
with. Yeah, go to Brad. But I think,
I can do that.
yeah, if there's some way we can kind of all be on the same page, it'd be good for the county. Not just our jurisdiction, but the entire county.
So I have no problem inviting the BZA to be part of whatever date we set this meeting on. So we do have, because we would anticipate a larger group, because we'll be inviting players to the game or to the meeting, from Solar and whoever else, even the public could come, because I think we had a few public people speak at that summit. We will need to do it at a larger venue, and I know the 4-H ground, we do have a few dates that are available.
Right. We actually, if we wanted to do the special type meeting, 15th or the 22nd are both open
Of this month,
of this month.
15th and 22nd.
I've already talked to Purdue Extension, and we are on, I'm assuming as long as, and I've sent emails to you guys, as long as solar is in our arena, you're going to have 30 solar companies coming to every meeting.
Where did I get the date 18th from?
That was the solar summit meeting from last month.
So the 15th is a Monday, and the 22nd is a Monday. 22nd is the Monday of Thanksgiving week. So we do 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now.
Monday's good for me.
Mondays are good?
Yeah, Monday's
Mondays are good? What time? For me, it needs to be 3 o'clock or later. 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, no, 4 o'clock.
Later.
Or should it be more in the evening,
I'd like to say maybe,
like 6?
we're gonna be harvesting through January.
But I know, they can get behind my house, that's why you get pretty dry, or pretty gray.
I'd go put some Valentines out for you. Put your heart in the field.
I may welcome.
Think 6?
Food service.
6? That way, we hopefully won't be too wrong. But now what date? Do we do it in 2 weeks? 2 weeks, the 13th?
15th.
Or 15th, I'm sorry, yeah, it's 15th. 15th. So you have a copy of the current ordinance, well, draft. And I think you explained what was going in there. Well, it's all black. There are some red spots where we may need our input, like fees, I guess, where it goes to. We can hash that out. Any questions? So a couple things. One would be definitely read this several times before we get there. Bring up what we had online before. If you don't know how to do it, Ryan, you can probably call the office and say that. But it's in old emails
I think I sent it
too.
to everyone, so.
If
it
it's
should
in
just
old
be a click.
emails, It'd be worth sitting down and listening to the input that was taken there, and some of the stuff was tweaked into this. So that would be,
I think the energy company
What
was
time?
pretty good on questions
What
they
time did you
answered.
say?
I think we're doing it the 15th at 6 o'clock. Will that work for everybody? 6? That way, we can go for 4 or 5 hours, it's still not too late. Anything else you wanna talk as far as solar briefly, or just leave it the way where we're at right now, Ryan? Is that that'll give us, cause we'll have to advertise, cause this isn't gonna be a public meeting.
This will be, do we have to advertise, or
I
can we
think
set a
so.
special
I
meeting
mean,
today?
We can say it today, but we still need to advertise.
It's not
I
a
think.
public hearing though.
No, it's not
No,
public
but
hearing,
it's
but
still a public meeting,
I-
so you have to advertise.
I think we need to let the public know.
Mhm.
Yes, make all the
It's
proper
48 hours in
notifications.
advance, yeah.
Then our meeting won't be here, it'll be somewhere.
Right, right.
I thought we could set a special meeting as long as we.
Yeah, well, we can probably, but the newspaper's not here to notify the general public, so I think we need to go due diligence. We don't wanna be like hiding behind anything. We wanna make this as open as possible to,
Put that on radio, that's public service.
so.
Don't we have a website or something that they put our stuff on that people can look at?
All right, so
So we're gonna do basically a summit meeting on the 15th.
a summit meeting, once again, we'll go through, Phil, hopefully we can decide where direction it should go through us and through the BZA. And I'm sure there'll be probably some council members there, county commissioners there that may voice their opinions, or even other people will voice their opinion. Take that in.
Go from that meeting to look at.
Looks like some
December
people
for
want to go home. So we do have, I do want one or two quick things here. Rules and procedures, BZA had a lesson on this tonight. They're gonna do what we're hoping to do is, form a group, and I think we have 3 volunteers already.
Yep.
Bob, Lois, and
Rex.
Rex, and I kind of decided, I don't know if we want any more than that. That ought to be, I think, a fair amount, and then working with Ryan. So in your packet, once again, you got printed stuff, and you got stuff in red. I think there might be some blue stuff in there too.
Red is basically, I've taken our rules and procedures, put Indiana code with it. Indiana code is in red, and blue is the Indiana Planning Association's interpretation of it.
Coach Black to me,
Yeah, I all look the same by the time I was done.
I'm colorblind.
So I need to do a
I told
count.
the BZA, I don't know what I was thinking, trying to do both of them at
So,
once.
you guys and gals wanna set a date or time to get down first with yourself or with Ryan for a couple hours someday, or however you guys wanna do it?
Sometime in time after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll be out for it.
After 2,
Yeah.
after 2?
It's gonna be one or 3 of us talk with Ryan after the
Okay.
meeting, decide how we'll proceed. So what's going to be the task then? We're
Well,
gonna
we need to
review it,
update
come
our
back to
rules.
you. We're gonna come
Back to me or to the group, I mean, we'll see.
It's gonna take some time.
Well, you only got about 3 weeks. No,
Okay.
no. We wanna do due diligence, cause I know you were wanting to do it way back when you were up here, and so,
Kyle's had it for a couple.
so we actually have this, and we got compared to the way things should be, or should be as far as state code, things where we may be out of the line, that we may need to get back in the line. So that would be good.
One thing I will suggest to you, as we get ready to look at this has kind of been near and dear to me for a long time, is before we change, a lot of what's here, I think we need to understand the history. Our rules and procedures apparently have served us fairly well for 40 years. And over the period of 40 years, there's been additions, deletions, amendments, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think that there's anybody here that is probably as familiar with why this rule is here or whatever as some people out in the John Bonham, for example. I'd like for us to have permission to talk to some other people with
Yeah.
knowledge.
Well,
to help us.
research, yeah.
Debbie Wallace has been here for, I don't know, how long was Debbie here?
30 years.
30 years.
Right.
She dealt with it directly. And Bonham was, an executive with this group for 25 years. I would like to be.
Right,
able
we
to
don't
include
wanna,
them.
we don't wanna undo things, but if we have things written in here
We have
that we
things
are
that need to
going
be changed.
against the rules, state law or regulations,
That's the reason I brought it
Right.
up 4 years ago, but.
right, so we need to make sure and I think
Is it
one
okay
reason,
if we add a couple people to our committee?
I think one reason why Ryan got this packet together and this and that, through his solar ordinance ordeal, or whatever you wanna call it. What county is being sued?
Right now, and I think I've sent that to everyone. Right now, Madison County is in the middle of a lawsuit that's at the Supreme Court due to members of the BZA. They had someone from Purdue Extension on the BZA that didn't live in the jurisdiction or no property in the jurisdiction, and they had another member who was out of term. And that is, so they voted for a solar farm. I think it was for those against it basically are wanting to void that vote, saying those two do not count. Anderson currently has a moratorium on solar right now, and they just extended it 6 months because it's still.
So the thing is, our procedures and that procedures and makeup of our bodies and that, well, which we should always be on, correct, but, sometimes we get a little lax, so this would be like a tune-up. All right, do we need to talk anymore? You wanna do the slaughterhouse?
I do have, the slaughter.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes,
I was gonna bring up slaughter.
yes, but we got, I think that might be the last item that I wanted to cover tonight. Slaughterhouse.
Oh, me? Okay.
Yes.
As you know, we've had the situation that we tried to work with Mr. Cameron out there, and now it's kind of went to the lawyers, but it still hasn't went to the lawyers yet. Attorney's supposed to contact Kyle, and that hasn't happened yet. Well, we had, Mr. Cameron actually called the office and talked to Brenda. He is wanting to know what he needs to do to get permits to start working on the east addition, the south addition, and the remodel on the interior. So what I'm asking you, with no contact with him, do we want to allow permits for him to start doing additions until we've had a chance to talk to him?
I'll say wait till you talk to him and tell him he's gotta keep in good communication with it.
Because we know with the addition of what he's doing on the east,
Yeah,
is to establish tanning, which goes against the written agreement. What he's doing on the interior is for retail sales, according to what he told me as we walked through it, which goes against the written agreement. So that's what I'm bringing it to you
if it's
before
all
he comes
against
in.
the agreement, I would say, tell him come in and talk, and you can explain to him, it's against the risk agreement. You're gonna have to come back to us, or what are the steps he has to take.
Kyle, how does this all play out with him with the written agreement?
Well, I told Ryan today, he's entitled to permits if he wants to do it, if he has the thing. So I guess I would be clear what Ryan said. You gotta issue permits if he wants them. But the issue is also the written commitment, to say, hey, if you wanna do this to violate the written commitment, that's a bad idea.
He's still obligated to that.
Yeah, prior owners obligate, that's what the written commitment does, it obligates all future owners once it's been recorded.
Why did he tell us that he didn't have to abide by that?
I don't know, he said a lot of things, he said his lawyer, and I said, fine.
He
have your
told us
lawyer.
that USDA trumped us.
Yeah, that's what I heard
That's
out
what-
his
that's what
mouth.
I-
He said, I'm following their guideline,
So,
and I don't have to listen to you guys.
he can, I'm happy to listen to anything his lawyer wants to bring to us, so, they haven't contacted me, so.
Can we put a stop work order out there? I was by there today, gates were open and they were working.
if he's following the written contract, how can I stop him?
I just went by and saw the gates were open.
But you know what I'm saying, I walked it with him, and at that time, he wasn't tanning, he wasn't doing retail sales, which would mean he's within the written commitment.
But he don't have any permits to do anything.
He's not building yet, he's asking.
He wants to do some.
He has permission to do what we said, you can slaughter the cow. and do-
Kyle is saying if he requests a building permit, we're obligated to do that, right? The thing is, that Ryan may say, hey, this, we understand, this agreement is there that says you can't do that, so buyer beware, so to speak. Or you may wanna address it before you go too far.
And he's gonna tell me it doesn't matter what we say, because they said he could.
Well, he's agreed to be here and just had a no-show, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Different times, different meetings.
Yeah, he was gonna try to be here in September, we put him on the agenda and then verified with him, and he said, take me off, we'll let the attorneys talk.
Yeah, because the first time he was here, if I remember right.
January.
He was here unannounced, he's give his 10 what he wanted to do, and he said, I'll be back when I get my plan. And then that's when I heard, when we asked the question, I follow the federal guidelines, I don't have to listen to you guys. That's, it was his word, you guys are nobody, that's all I have to follow.
He didn't put all those fences up out there.
No.
Is that what the last guy
The
did?
Indians
Last
did
guys
that.
did, I think he fixed some of it, and he's doing minor stuff out there. Like I
Didn't
said,
look all that bad.
when we walked through it, I thought this is a great idea, and everything sounded great, like he was gonna come and get it all taken care of.
Because when he took it over, I know people lived out there, they called me, sent me pictures that was showing, I called those of them were Indians still walking the yard. And that's what I called, talked, going around, I said, what's going, and Aaron, I said, what's going on? I'm seeing this, I thought this changed hands, I thought he's coming back to where he was, and he said, no, he wasn't coming back.
Well, and another part of that problem was we would have to go back to a public hearing because we were changing an ordinance again. If we were gonna get rid of the written commitment, he didn't feel like he should have to go through a public hearing. I think he thought we were gonna set him up here and set him up.
Well, if he wants to change to the written commitment, he's gotta come to us, basically, right? Cause that's,
So he walks in tomorrow and says, hey, I'm ready for my 3 permits. Yep.
I would say, if he wants to spend his money that way, and then we will analyze if he does something contrary to the agreement, right?
Yeah, we can say you can have this permit, but you want to build them, we're gonna have to come shut you down. Because you broke the agreement.
I would say go that direction. All right, any other discussion? All right, so you guys, any other business? I think we're done. That's all that's on my list here. All right, thank you, gentlemen, for coming in tonight. We'll see you, what, in about 2 weeks? 2 weeks, 6 o'clock out at the fairgrounds. 2 weeks. 2 weeks.